Welcome back to the Vintage Firearm series. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about a gun that Winchester made, a shotgun and a 410 bore that is misunderstood in so many ways. It's an interesting gun, really. Part of the reason it's misunderstood is they made so few of them. They made less than 160,000 of these over a 30-year span. Now, when people look at it, they think it's a miniature Model 12. And as far as appearance is concerned, they're right. But it's not. The internals were designed inside, right here, to accommodate a 410 that would not work as well with the design of the Model 12, which was geared towards, 2016, 12, that. So I met a guy one time, and he was showing me a gun, a 42. And he owned it, and had owned it for years, and didn't know it was a Model 42. He said, "This is a rare gun. This is one of the few they made in the, the 410 bore for a Model 42, for a Model 12." And I said, "Well, if it was a Model 12, it would be extremely rare. It'd be one of." But the reality is, I told him it's a Model 42, and that's rare in itself. See, they came out with it in 1933, and it was part of the great collapse of the traditional handmade made guns that Winchester and many other manufacturers were doing. I think Winchester is the one that people think of mostly in 1963. So that's why you hear pre-64. It's not a bunch of BS. It really is true stuff. It doesn't mean that Winchester doesn't make good guns anymore, but they're not handmade. And that's the difference. They're machine made. The metal is formed rather than cut out. And so here we would have a block of metal that was cut out with machines and stuff. So it's one solid piece, therefore lasts forever, to be honest. But let's take a look at this gun. It breaks down just like in the Model 97. So that would have been a John Browning design. Of course, the Model 12, which John Browning wasn't directly involved in, but indirectly, of course, a lot of it was his design. Breaks down the same way. And this is a beautiful gun. It's hardly ever been used. I picked it out years ago out of a state that is unfriendly to firearms, and it had never really been used. This one dates to 1962. So the following year, they did away with this. It's a remarkable little gun. It's got a crossbolt safety. The release to chamber the first shell is right here. It's a little awkward. The way they made it, it's a little bit different from the Model 12, so I would prefer that one. It's in the same spot. It kind of looks the same. It's just not as friendly to use. The stocks on this are gorgeous. Absolutely, undeniably gorgeous. And to cycle this, pretty smooth, but you would expect so. It's 410. So let's go ahead, take our little friend outside. I want to tell you that I haven't fired this in years. It's been several years anyways. Like I said, I picked it up. I'm sure I fired it some. But the problem with having, shall we call it a bedroom queen or whatever you want to call it, is the fact that you don't want to shoot them a lot. And these are a rare gun. So I'm going to shoot it occasionally and time to time. And one of those times will be today. But it won't be consistent. It won't be all the time, because I have a certain obligation. I have guns for that. Hey, did you want to see a Model 12 side by side? This is my favorite Model 12. I have oodles of them, but this is my favorite from 1956. This one right here, of course, is the Model 12, obviously, right? Look at the size difference. This is a 12 gauge. And, but if you want to look at it, it breaks down the same, okay? Everything about it is the same. The proportions are smaller. We've got a little button here. This button, in my opinion, is much easier to get to than that one. It's just a little shaping difference, and the receiver is a little different. Doesn't mean that this is bad. It's just the Model 12 is my preference. The stocks basically look the same. So the mere fact that people get confused shouldn't be shocking to anyone. Let's take the old Model 42 out for a run, should we? I think so. Oh, oops, sorry about that. Didn't mean to give you a whack. Got big feet. Take it easy. Let's go outside. Let's really try things. Oh, we should weigh this. We should weigh it against a Model 12. Model 12 is going to be fairly heavy. This is going to be very light comparatively. We'll compare it. I know what a real light side-by-side weighs. Let's compare this to a real light side-by-side and see what. I think the side-by-side will be lighter, okay? But I know side-by-side, like say L.C. Smith is 6 pounds at a gauge 20. So we'll compare it against a 20 gauge against a 410. How about that, huh? Okay, let's go ahead and give it a run. Thanks. I'll see you outside. Okay, so let's get started. Let's take our Model 42 410 bore and set it out here. And okay, it's 5 pounds 15 ounces. That's pretty darn good, to be honest with you. That's right there with the 20 gauge side-by-side, which I think is a very light gun. This one is too. It feels wonderful. Okay, so now we know already that this 20 gauge side-by-side is 6 pounds. It's a much bigger capacity, but only for 2 shots. So it's 1 ounce more, which is, I use that like as a litmus test of what an ideal weight should be for a smaller gun in the woods. Now, here's the one that we really should be paying attention to, and this is the Model 12. Now, this is a 12 gauge. So as a person carrying a gun, what would the difference between be a 12 gauge? We could bring out a 22, but I have a Model 12-20, but we won't for this one. We'll just compare it to the big boy. Okay, so 7 pounds, 10.5 ounces. Okay, so that's what you're down to. You're saving basically just 2 pounds. You're saving 2 pounds, which is not just 2 pounds. It's 2 pounds is a lot when you're walking through the woods. Now, the other thing is the dimensions of the gun, and we're going to go into those once we go back inside, because I think that's important too. A person choosing a 410 could possibly be a person who is smaller, doesn't like the kick of a 12 gauge, or a 20 doesn't have much of a kick, but some people might say it would. I bought a gun recently off somebody, and it was a police gun that had been used, in a police vehicle, and it folded, the stock folded down, and the guy had had it 25 years. And he said to me when I bought it, he says, it's a nice gun, but it kicks, I forget the expression he used, but I'll add this one. It kicks like a mule. And so I was kind of a little bit worried about it and said, well, should I put something, should I wear something extra? I went out and fired it, and it was just standard 12 gauge shotgun. I didn't find anything uncomfortable about it. So it depends on where you're coming from. If you shoot 22s all the time, you're going to think a 12 gauge kicks a lot. If you shoot a 410, I don't think anyone's going to say that it kicks a lot. A 20, I've heard some people say it kicks a little bit, but not really. not comparatively speaking. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to break down this setup and we're going to go into our shooting mode and we're going to have some fun there. I think we'll shoot on down there. Maybe I'll try to find some really small bean cans to challenge the 410 and what it can do, okay? And we'll have some fun. Let's go ahead and let me go ahead and set that up and I'm going to be right back with you. Okay, so here we are. We're outside now. They've got 3 little cans over there. Should keep it a tiny bit of a challenge. On the side of this, I'll read it to you too. Model number 42, 410, 3-inch chambering. That's always handy. Made in the USA, Winchester proof steel, full choke. Full choke is really important when you get into the, in this case, a smaller bore. Let's go ahead and load some up. Very easy to load, I might add. Okay, it's still got the block in it. We'll go ahead and chamber one. Safety is on. So then we'll load one more. So then we'll have 3 for our 3 cans. And put one away just in case I do something stupid and make a mistake and miss. Okay, so I hope you can see the 3 cans over there. Actually, you know what I ought to do? I'm going to put you guys closer so you can get a nice close-up view. Okay, well that worked out pretty well. Kind of interesting though is that, and I have no idea for this, whether or not this was ordered as a left-handed gun or what, but the safety is backwards on this. And I've never seen a Winchester where it was before. But it must have been ordered a left-handed gun. I can't imagine it. I don't have 4 extra 42s, so that might be an issue there too. It could be something that they were, if anybody is aware if that was commonplace or what. I had a heck of a time. I was saying, the safety's off, the safety's off. And then I would rack it back and forth and try it again in the same position and it wouldn't work. Funny that. So then I put it in the opposite position and it did work fine. So the safety is backwards. You got to know your guns. You got to know your equipment. Whatever you deal with in life, you have to know what it is. Now, the length of pole is going to be 13.5. You know, it's approximate, but it's really in there close. 13.5, which is pretty close to being normal. You know, a lot of times they're right in that range. 45.5 for the full length of the gun. So 44.5 for the full length. So let's go ahead and measure it up against a full-size Model 12. Okay, so here we go. This, instead of being, okay, now this is 47.5. So you're saving about 3 inches in length. But now let's check out the length of pole. The length of pole is 14. So, you know, a ½ inch on the length of pole. I would almost have been surprised by that, because on the length of pole for a smaller gun like that, you got to be thinking that it could be for a smaller statured person to at least some of the time. But then a lot of adults like to shoot with it, so it's probably a compromise. People who shoot turkeys and stuff love 410s. That doesn't mean that they're small, just means that they don't want to, you know, damage the meat. I mean, you're going to shoot a turkey, you want to be able to eat it. You know, it's not that you're going to leave it there. And so you want to, you know, be able to shoot the neck. I guess I'm told, I'm not a turkey guy. Shoot the neck, and, you know, then the basic majority of the meat is fine. Probably all of it perfect, actually, especially with a 410, because it's going to be tight. Now, I put the camera really close on the can, so we're going to run it as you've already seen it. We ran it through one time at regular speed. Hopefully that's the way it'll work out. And then we ran it through once in slow-mo just for fun. We edited it out a little bit. The only time we edit is when we the length of time between the shots, because if we didn't do that, then that would be slow mode too. So that would be like a long time in between. So we're not going to do that to you. But other than that, they were all shot fairly quickly, and there were no misses or anything. You can't miss with a gun like this. So in any case, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming by. I hope you've had a pleasant experience in this episode, and I will look forward to seeing you real soon again. If you're on YouTube, check us out over on Rumble. And if you're on Rumble, would you please sub? I appreciate you so much. If you want to sub over on YouTube, that's fine. I appreciate you there. But our long-term plans is to move almost exclusively on, if not exclusively, YouTube is what YouTube is. It's a great format, but also they're difficult to deal with. So in any case, I appreciate your time and energy, and I will look forward to seeing you right around the corner. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.